The trial of Mountain of Fire and Miracle Ministry. Mountain of Fire and Miracle Ministry, the Pentecostal Christian denomination which came into being in 1989, is in the face of a storm, and it seems this storm is not going to recede soon. Both the church and its founder, Pastor Daniel Olukoya, the cerebral academic, are being dragged on a daily basis on social media. This is on account of an alleged armed robbery case leveled against the trio of Femi Jimoh, Caleb Oloruntele, and Henry Aiyewero by the church. Jimoh was a pastor in the church. Oloruntele was head of a traffic usher of the church too, while Aiyewero had nothing to do with the church. But these three folks were arrested at different times by the police and were alleged to have attempted to rob the church and also assassinate Pastor Olukoya. The long and short of the case is that they were in prison for about 9 years. The case, however, was heard in the court for 7 years, but the court could not lay hands on any evidence to prove the accused indeed wanted to rob the church, and the case was thrown out by Honorable Justice O.A. Williams on July 1st, 2016 for want of evidence. Thus, the three became free again. The battle was not over as both Jimoh and Oloruntele proceeded to the industrial court to make claims of damages and request for a payment of salaries and allowances for 9 years they were in prison since they were in the employment of the church. Justice A.N. Ubaka on December 15, 2023 was able to establish that the accused who are now claiming damages were in the employment of the MFM and that their appointments were at no point terminated according to industrial regulation. He, however, insisted that the church should pay the arrears of salaries it owed both Jimoh and Oloruntele for the period they were in prison. The issue of damages that accrued to them for the period they were incarcerated was not addressed by the judge. That, however, is no issue. For many who have been following this story, the main concern is the drama and intrigues that surrounded the unjust incarceration of these three folks. It is one drama that keeps the mouth wide open and many wondering what on earth would have led to the unjust imprisonment of these men in the first place. What are the things that are known to them but hidden from those who are following the story? Is Olukoya that vicious and unfeeling that he would allow his church members to languish in jail for an unverified offense? The questions are endless. The arguments on both sides seems plausible. But the bottom line is that there was a court case and there was a judgment. A landmark judgment for that matter, which absolves the trio of Jimoh, Oloruntele and Aiyewero of any accusations of attempted robbery. The stories of both sides of the divide, even with the court judgment, are something to chew. Though it was a case between the Lagos State government and the three folks because of the criminal inference, the MFM church is the propelling engine behind the case. In his defense, Pastor Jimoh had insisted that he was victimized by Michael Gbadamosi, who is the chief security officer of Pastor Olukoya. He said he was arrested in his house when he went to submit his credentials to Gbadamosi. He had wanted Gbadamosi to help him with a juicy ministerial posting in the church. The build-up to that arrest is what keeps many people worried. Why will a visit to the CSO lead to the prison? What were the issues? Jimoh was quick to link his travel to his being a custodian of the best-kept secret of the CSO to Olukoya. He said he had stumbled on the man in the house of an herbalist. Incidentally, the son of the herbalist was a casual member of the Ogbomoso branch of the MFM, where Jimoh worked as pastor before he came to Lagos. Gbadamosi had allegedly reached the part with Jimoh not to spill the beans. They both reached an agreement, but Gbadamosi was not comfortable with the information about his person in the hands of Jimoh. He felt the only way to silence him forever was to keep him away in prison, or so it seemed. The story sounds convincing, but Gbadamosi, in a swift defense, said he had never been to Ogbomoso in his life. He said he was not aware of any herbalist anywhere and had not been involved in any kind of transaction. He insisted he had no dealing with Pastor Jimoh either. He told those who cared to listen to him that Jimoh was not arrested in his house and that he was arrested by the police in a bar when they were planning to rob the church. Who is telling the truth? If Jimoh was a custodian of the secrets of Gbadamosi, why were Oloruntele and Aiyewero arrested? Were they also keeping secrets? Oloruntele said his travels started when he was asked to implicate another security officer in the church, which he refused. He contended that the CSO was on a mission to silence all the security officers in the mission so he could be the sole person in charge of security issues in the church. He was described as a powerful man who had the ears of the general overseer. But then, how did Aiyewero come into the picture? He was not and is not a member of a church. He had walked the day the gods were hungry for food. In his statement, he said he had gone to buy fuel at the filling station when the police swooped on him and dragged him into the police station to answer a case he allegedly knew nothing about. Somehow, destiny tied the three of them together for 9 years. The losses were simply incredible. Those years were years of tears and blood. Oloruntele lost his child a few months into his incarceration. The wife of Jimoh deserted him. A few years after their release, Oloruntele lost his wife. Jimoh, on the other hand, lost his father while he was in detention, and he was denied the privilege of going to bury him. The losses were unquantifiable, but that was their story. The hero of the trial, however, is the High Court judge who did a clinical examination of the matter and delivered a landmark judgment that left the world wondering how cruel the authority of the church was, or so it seemed. How does one explain 9 years in prison without being found guilty of the charges for which one was arrested? And to think the matter is attempted robbery, one begins to wonder at the lopsidedness of the Nigerian legal system. In the first place, Section 35(4) of the 1999 Constitution states that any person who is arrested or detained following subsection 1C of this section shall be brought before a court of law within a reasonable time, and if is not tried within a period of 2 months from the date of his arrest or detention in the case of a person who is in custody or is not entitled to bail, or B, 3 months from the date of his arrest or detention in the case of a person who has been released on bail, he shall, without prejudice to any further proceedings that may be brought against him, be released either unconditionally or upon such conditions as are reasonably necessary to ensure that he appears for trial at a later date. In the case of the 3 people in question, their trial did not start until after 2 years they were put in detention, and it became more complicated when it was a case of an attempted armed robbery. Justice O.A. Williams, Mrs., while delivering her judgment, did not address the issue of their undue stay in prison before the case was brought before the court. She, however, stated that the case dragged on for 7 years due to the faults of both the prosecution and the defendants. She said the prosecution dragged its feet, closed and reopened its case, and sought endless adjournments. What makes it more worrisome is that the defendants continued with this pattern of delay when it was their turn to present their defense, even though the first and second defendants, that is Jimoh and Oloruntele, who had been granted bail, did not meet the conditions of bail, so they continued to remain in custody. The argument of the church in the series of its media outings on the matter is that the people in question did attempt to rob the church. The church stated that Jimoh and the rest reached out to some members of the Odua People's Congress seeking their collaboration in the attempted robbery. It was the OPC members, according to the church, that leaked out the plans to the police. The OPC folks were said to be afraid of robbing the house of God and had opted to reach out to the police. The police in turn asked them to play along with the supposed kingpin of the gang so they could be caught by the time they got before the courts. However, it did not take long for the judge to see through the manipulations of the prosecution. The judge was able to puncture the evidence brought before the court. He noted that many of the witnesses brought in by the prosecutor were speaking from both sides of the mouth. The judge also noted that their statements were contradictory and could not clearly show that the trio of Jimoh, Oloruntele and Aiyewero indeed planned to rob the church. The judge stated, "I find that the contradictory testimonies of the prosecution's witnesses cannot establish the facts from which the court is being invited to make inference that there was a conspiracy. No such inference can be made from the documentary evidence either." In delivering her judgment, the judge said, "Finally, I find and hold that the prosecution has failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt. The defendants are therefore acquitted and discharged." In the course of the proceedings in the court, the judge was able to discover that the video evidence that was brought to show the trio were planning to rob the church was stage managed. It also became clear to the courts that the accused people only got to meet in the prison. There was never a time they knew themselves before they were arrested, since the trio were left off the hook. However, the MFM is constantly being criticized on social media. While some still think there are stories yet to be told about the injustice done to them, quite a number believe the MFM has not handled the matter well. It is believed that the church should bring to play its humanity since the people it accused have been vindicated. More so, the courts of the land do not support lawlessness in whatever form. The church should not be seen as a haven for illegality. The case here is about 3 human beings denied freedom for 9 years for a crime they knew nothing about at the behest of an institution that claims to worship God. Even God in heaven will expect the MFM to do the right thing, compensate the victims, apologize for the injustice, and be humble to accept it erred in the matter in question.